a good majority of my clients right now come to me via referrals. So it's either someone they knew or a family member or another practitioner referred them to me. I've been on the podcast circuit for a little while. So, the word gets out, social media and things like that, getting leads from there. But I would mostly say it's podcasts, people listening and hearing, oh yeah, that totally sounds like something I'm dealing with. Let me check this out.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nicky Billou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nicky Billou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest for you today. She is another one of our emerging thought leaders. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Yundt Coles. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Yay, hooray. Thank you so much. That was an awesome introduction. I appreciate that.
You bet. So, Jen, tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Yundt Coles?
Yeah. So here I am. It's been a journey. I am currently a functional medicine practitioner, and I help my clients with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and other digestive issues. And I got here, like many of us in the functional medicine world, as someone who was suffering from my own health issues. So lifelong journey of digestive distress through childhood, teenage years as well. And once I got married, I started having that whole thing where I didn't want to use the bathroom while my husband was in the house. It caused all kinds of problems for me, right? And then child rearing years, hormones changing, all the things that could possibly land on one human being, I think did land on me at one point. And I've always had this drive and interest in alternative health and learning more about different modalities of how to support your body in different ways. And eventually, after having broken heart syndrome, because my body was so completely stressed out from all the symptoms and my go-getter lifestyle. I'm kind of what I like to call a recovering perfectionist. My body was finally done. And so that was the real turning point for me. And that was my first taste of functional medicine at that point. I sought out a different type of practitioner. And she was the one that actually said, hey, have you ever heard of SIBO? Maybe we should test you for that, because I was having these chronic digestive issues. And lo and behold, it came back positive and led me down that whole rabbit hole. And at the time, I was just closing my gluten-free baking company and starting to go back to school for health coaching, because I thought in my mind, kind of naively, I'm going to go to health coaching school and figure out how to, fix myself. And once I kind of dove into that and started having clients, I realized that I needed way more information and I wanted the research and the resources. And that's kind of how my brain works. I like to dive into that kind of stuff. And actually, every Friday, I don't see clients because I love researching so much. That's part of what I love. And eventually put myself through functional medicine school. And I have had some amazing mentors over the years, so I don't take credit for everything. And I'm so grateful for all of that. But I think that has been part of how and why I got to where I am now. So I think in a nutshell, that's how I am Yundt Coles, the SIBO coach at this point.
So what is SIBO?
Yeah, so it stands for Small Intestinal Bacterial Overgrowth. And the important thing to understand is that we have different microbiomes all over in our body. And I don't think that was understood before, but it's becoming more and more understood in the conventional medicine world. And we have fermentation and all of that going on in the large colon, lots of bacteria. We should have a nice diverse microbiome there. But our small intestine is more for synthesizing, assimilating nutrients from our food, and not really a place for fermentation and all of that to go on. So when we do have some sort of bacterial overgrowth or imbalance in the small intestine, I mean, mostly it's supposed to be, I mean, not sterile, but it's definitely not like the large intestine. This can cause all kinds of havoc. It causes leaky gut, wear and tear on the intestinal lining, nutrient deficiencies, and all sorts of wicked, chronic type of symptoms. They're not only digestive, which might include things like bloating and gas and, changes in bowel, diarrhea, constipation, maybe both. But it can also cause things like body pain syndromes, brain fog, cognitive impairment, poor sleep. I mean, the list goes on and on. Rashes, all sorts of things that can come about that aren't even related to what you would think is going on in your gut. So it's really important to address if you feel like this may be something present, in your current health situation.
So what causes this?
Yeah, so there's quite a few root causes for SIBO, and one that is talked about the most is about a food poisoning. So if you were traveling, or perhaps you went to the salad bar or ate at your friend's house, and then you ended up getting sick, and then a couple months later, you end up having these chronic issues like perhaps bloating an hour or two after eating in that area below the belly button or the navel. That's a tall tale. I mean, that's a telltale sign, right? And so it's really important to kind of clue into things that may have happened even months before. TBI, which is a really interesting one. If you've had some sort of injury to your brain, we know that the brain and the gut are very intimately connected. A round of antibiotics can shift the microbiome in the gut. Surgery or an injury to the abdomen. Taking NSAIDs, birth control pills, or PPIs, which is very common in today's world as people just pop in pills like left and right? And all of these things can cause an imbalance in the intestinal flora and lead to something like SIBO.
Wow. I'm doing quite a bit of self-education. I'm a bit of an autodidact on nutritional issues. I just did Max Lugaver's course in Peterson University on nutrition, and I'm reading his book, Genius Foods. I just read Dr. Casey Means's book, Good Energy, and the emphasis that these folks put on having a healthy gut is startling. It's, yes, I would say probably 60, 70% of the focus that they have in their books and what they recommend that, people reading their books like me do is make sure that you understand what can impact your gut and in what way, and that you eat in a way that minimizes that negative impact on your gut. So I'm always fascinated to hear from practitioners in the field like you. So maybe you can tell me, like, for you and the clients that you work with, who is your ideal client? Someone who's suffering from this and may not even know it? Like, help me understand that.
Yeah. So when I first got started, SIBO wasn't as known, I guess, in the medical world, or wasn't talked about much. And even to this day, honestly, you could go to a GI and they may not say that it's even a thing or want to test you for it. So I do encourage anyone who might be listening to just be your own best advocate and really just keep asking questions, right? At this point in my practice, folks that are coming to see me are people who have been around the block a few times. They've been to their doctor several times. They've tried, the gold standard rifaximin prescription for SIBO. They've taken it several times. The SIBO always comes back. They don't understand why. It's becoming a chronic condition. Those are the folks that I usually see at this point. Occasionally I'll have someone who doesn't even know about SIBO and they're just curious and they reach out to me maybe from a referral or something like that. And I also have several practitioners that refer their own patients and clients over to me if it's a special case where they feel like they just need extra support. But typically, I would say my clients, it's so interesting. My clients tend to be entrepreneurial, busy corporate types, creatives. I have lots of artists, costume designers, actors, musicians, folks who are really driven in their passions, caring for their families, traveling, really active types. And I find it really interesting because, sometimes as practitioners, we attract people who are like us. And, this is something that I feel like that's what kind of got me into this, health situation to begin with. It was the constant drive and go, 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 and perfectionism and people pleasing and all of that, and not really understanding that there needed to be more of a balance in order to really allow my body to start self-healing. And that's sort of the big, I think, takeaway or the big message that I try to share and empower my clients with.
What would you say to someone listening to this that they could do from a nutrition point of view to minimize the chance that they'd get something like SIBO?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Nikki. So it's interesting because right now in the mainstream, you'll see lots of, you have to do the keto diet or you have to do the paleo diet or you definitely have to go vegan. And my message is really more about it needs to be individual. We are all so unique and we all have our own environment that we're living in and our microbiomes are different and we have different nutrient needs. So I would never suggest, you need to do this one diet or that one diet as far as nutrition goes. For me, I think it's more important to figure out what works best for your body. What's actually feeling good? What's giving you energy? What's allowing you to sleep at night so that you can reset? And I would say even before thinking about what kind of foods or nutrients that you need, I would think about how can I start lowering my chronic stress levels so that I can digest and absorb those nutrients that I'm taking in. Because when we are stuck in fight or flight, we don't really, absorb our nutrients well. We have impaired digestive secretions, and so that we have downstream other effects of like food fodder hanging out in the small intestines for bacteria to feed on. And so even before thinking about which nutrients your body needs, I would be thinking about the nutrient of like more joy, more rest, more balance, less stress, less people pleasing, and all of that kind of stuff that sometimes we get stuck in. Because you know what? The truth is we could eat the best diet, quote unquote, best diet, take all of our fancy vitamins, go to yoga 3 times a week or whatever. But if we're not really checking in with what's going on up here and right here, mind and heart, those things are intimately connected with what's going on in the gut and our ability to absorb those nutrients. So that's probably what I would say.
Jen, you want to give us a success story of one of your clients? You don't need to violate confidentiality or mention any names, but I'd love to understand how this actually works in real life.
Yeah, sure. So I have a client. She is a young 30s, very active, very social. And she, was definitely one of these sort of high achiever types, very active and constantly, working on projects and going out with friends and traveling. Very typical of my clientele. And she came to me and she had been having this ongoing issue with bloating after meals and chronic diarrhea. She was literally going to the bathroom 10 to 12 times a day. I don't know how she had time to do all the things that she wanted to do because she was in the bathroom all the time, but that just sounds horrible to me, right? And so I was really motivated to be able to partner with her and help her. So one of the first conversations we had was about her workout or exercise activity level. She was doing CrossFit, heavy weightlifting, lots of cardio, 7 days a week. And she came to me not necessarily for the diarrhea, but her top concern was, I want to lose a few pounds. And so what's really interesting is it's important to educate people when we're kind of inflamed and in this sick, chronic simmering infection mode. Our body holds on to weight. It's a way of feeling safe. And so lots of times after we address the microbial imbalance in the gut, the weight falls off later. But part of our conversation was, let's try to work out how to exercise X amount of days, change the type of exercise, and then balance it out with a little more meditation or yoga or Tai Chi, something that's going to increase circulation and oxygen, still give you that hit because you're being active, but it gives you a chance in your body and mind to feel like it's safe so that you can start healing. And once we kind of got through that, it was kind of a rocky road at the beginning because she didn't want to prescribe to that idea, right? She didn't want to slow down her routine. But once she did, she reported to me a couple months later, oh my gosh, I'm almost to my target weight. And going to the bathroom at that point after we were addressing some microbial imbalances, she was able to reduce her bowel movements to 1 or 2 per day. So I think that it's not necessarily what's on your plate that you're eating. It's not necessarily what supplements or pharmaceuticals you're taking. And it's not necessarily, is your body able to absorb that key nutrient, but it has a lot to do with everything else. It was her environment. It was kind of stressful. It was her activity level. It was way too high for a healing journey. And it was kind of that mindset, understand that she didn't have to be stuck, that there was hope, and that we just need to make a few tweaks. And I think that that's what helped her be the most successful.
Fantastic. So, as an emerging thought leader, someone with a desire to make a big dent in the universe, what's the biggest frustration you're going through that you're not helping all the people you want to be helping?
Yeah, wow, what a great question. Interestingly, over the last couple of years, I've had more and more practitioners. I have colleagues from my functional medicine world, other doctors and such, coming to me, hey, can I get a consult on my client or my patient case? And I started doing that more and more, and my clientele sort of turned into about 30% practitioners coming to me for help, right?
Wow.
And what I kind of realized at that point was, wow, one, I really love doing this. Part of it is the education and then empowering that practitioner to know that they can think outside of the box. They don't have to, prescribe to this conventional medicine approach to SIBO, which I think is quite short-sighted and not comprehensive at all. And so that's kind of where I felt my superpower coming out, being able to teach, guide, and inspire them to do that. And so that's actually become part of my practice now. So I have a practitioner mentorship. And so I have practitioners coming in and cool. They get real live case review. We talk about what's going on right on the spot. And I find that it's really helpful for them, but it helps me feel like I'm helping more people than just the clients that I can see. And I think that's part of my mission at this point, is to really rock the boat, to rebel against that conventional medicine approach to treating SIBO or addressing other chronic digestive issues. Because like I said, I do feel it's short-sighted and it's not serving anyone at this point. The doctors are frustrated because their patients aren't getting better, and the patients are frustrated because they keep relapsing. And so I find that this is a win-win if we all kind of come together and start, thinking outside of the box, moving the marbles around, and coming up with different ideas for a more holistic, comprehensive approach to addressing chronic digestive issues.
I love it. So currently, how are you attracting your ideal clients?
Yeah, so, it's interesting, and it's such a blessing to me, I think. But a good majority of my clients right now come to me via referrals. So it's either someone they knew or a family member or another practitioner referred them to me. I've been on the podcast circuit for a little while, so the word gets out doing that. And I think other than that, social media and things like that, getting leads from there. But I would mostly say it's referrals and some podcasts, people listening and hearing, oh, yeah, that totally sounds like something I'm dealing with. Let me check this out.
Imagine it's a year from now, 3 years from now. Picture the world as you would ideally want it to be. What would have you crying tears of joy in terms of your practice and your impact?
Of joy, yeah. Less grind, more joy. I'm kind of coming into this myself. I just recently turned 50, and they always say you kind of have a little bit of a midlife crisis, but for me, I feel like it's a huge reset and realization or reawakening. It's one of those things where I feel like if I could go back in time, right, things would be different. But I'm looking forward to, a year, 3 years from now, I feel like people are going to be more open-minded, to be a little more experimental, a little more rebellious in asking questions, being more of an advocate for themselves and not settling. There's a lot of settling, I feel like, going on and just deferring to whatever your doctor tells you to do. Obviously, I'm not giving people medical advice to do that. But what I'm saying is, we get 10 minutes in the doctor's office and you have to hurry up and blurt out all your symptoms and hope that they're going to help you and they write you a prescription and send you on your way. And it's not really the healthcare that we need. That's kind of sick care management. Yeah, that's sick care management. So
no, it's not. What
I would love to see is just more of a comprehensive spaciousness. I don't know if you could call it that. People being awakened to the idea that they have individual power when it comes to their healing, and that we don't all fit in a box. We don't all fit under one protocol. And really kind of internalizing that idea that we are unique human beings and we need unique healthcare.
I've been taking detailed notes on what you've been saying because this is a topic that I personally find interesting and valuable. And one of the great things about hosting so many amazing top-level thought leaders is I get a bit of a coaching session from each one of them, right? So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But what you just said, like I want to stand up and like give you a standing ovation. Like you're bang on with all of that.
Oh, thank you.
We all need to be more open-minded, more rebellious, not settle for the Western medical model, which has so many flaws in it. I'm not saying that it's all bad because there's things in it that we need.
Of course.
If you break a bone, the Western medical model is fantastic for that. If you're having like emergency care, it's amazing. But
exactly.
for things like this, it's limited to say the least. So good on you. So look, we end every episode by asking you as our guest expert to do 4 things. First, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, great. So the best way to get a hold of me is my website. It's www.thesibocoach.com. There you can find many free resources. There's recipes, there's quizzes like, do I even have SIBO? I don't know. Let me take a quiz. There's program information there and also information about my practitioner mentorship. So that's kind of the hub. And if someone wanted to get in contact with me personally, they can always just email me, jen@thesibocoach.com. Yeah.
The other 3 things are, what are your top 3 expert action steps in bullet point form? What are your 3 best pieces of advice for my listener to take their health, their life, their spirit to the next level?
Give yourself permission to rest. Eat the rainbow.
I like that.
And embrace your individuality and your creativity.
Oh, these are good.
Well, I mean, I'm on the spot here, Nikki, so.
These are good. Jen, you're good. You're very good. Jen, we're going to make sure that we put your contact info in the show notes. Listener, Jen Yundt Coles is fantastic. She is brilliant. She is a thought leader. The world doesn't know about her the way they ought to yet, but hopefully this will be the start of the world getting to know who she is in a way bigger way. If you are suffering from SIBO, or you think you might be, or someone you know might be, check out her website. And if you learned something today, share it with somebody else. The best way to deepen the learning for yourself is when you take what you've learned and you teach it to others. That comes from Glasser choice theory. The fastest and best way to learn something is to teach it to other people. And if you liked what we did today, give us a like, rating, or review. What that does is it pushes us further up the algorithm, and more people that need this will see it. Jen, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Nicky. It's been a pure pleasure. I appreciate you.
Likewise. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's amazing guest, the one and only Jen Yundt Coles, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Rumble, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.